Matt Rhule has clearly said, I like this, I don't like that, I'm going to look in the mirror, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that, I'm going to do this. And with all due respect, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care if it's popular. Let's light this candle. Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Also, the Carriker Chronicles football camp. Check it out and or learn more. Register at carrikerchronicles.com. Ladies and gentlemen, so the Carriker Chronicles goes out every Tuesday night throughout the offseason. Don't worry, we're going to get into Matt Rhule. A lot of the controversial things that he's done this offseason, that he's been bold about, things he knows that are going to be unpopular. Not everything's unpopular. Some things are just more challenging. And we're going to dive into all that. All right. But I record the show on Mondays right now. If it's a gut reaction, it's instantaneous and it goes out. Every Monday, I don't have a case of the Mondays. When you love what you do, like they say, you'll never work a day in your life. I got up, I knew I was going to do another show, and I'm excited. All right. But real quick, before we dive into all that, college football has gotten a little to a whole lot a bit crazy. The Nico Iamaleava thing. Ooh, I nailed that name. I practiced it a lot. All right, the former Tennessee starting quarterback, he was their quarterback like 4 days ago, was in active contract negotiations with Tennessee, and they was sitting out spring practices, sat out the spring game. Did you know they were actively negotiating his contract during the college football playoff last year while they're getting ready to play Ohio State? And it was his dad, by the way. It was his dad. Going to get paid $2.4 million this year by Tennessee. Signed an NIL deal, wants up to $4. That's the problem, $4 million. Signed an NIL deal in 2022 for $8 million over the next few multiple years. You combine that with a guy like James Williams. By the way, can you just pick a different number now? Pick a different number down in Tallahassee. I wish you nothing but the best. But this guy had 0 starts, okay, until his senior year of high school. 0 offers out of high school. Went to a community college, so did my parents. Hey, nothing wrong with that. Was a walk-on, and nobody really was looking at him, but Nebraska gave him a chance. During his time here at Nebraska, he said Nebraska had, and I quote, the best D-line room in the country. He called them, and I quote, family, and I quote, the only people that accepted him, end quote. Now he's kind of blasting Nebraska, to a degree, but with all due respect. As long as you say with all due respect, and you say whatever you want, right? I guess that's his approach. He's taking shots at Nebraska. All right. I know college football rules and regulations are coming, but if you're like me, with guys getting opportunities and then kind of disrespecting where they came from, with active contract negotiations and holdouts in the middle of spring ball and apparently college football playoff games, almost anyways, if you're like me and you believe these rules and regulations cannot get here soon enough, to smash that like button. As always, if you haven't done so yet, all right, help us out. Help yourself out if you're interested. Subscribe, ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of the content we're putting out here on the Carriker Chronicles. If you didn't know, every Tuesday night throughout the offseason, any necessary gut reactions, we will be doing shows throughout the offseason. I'm excited to announce this, our final coach. Now, LYF is helping out. They're giving us their best coaches as well. Lincoln Youth Football League. If you didn't know, Zach Wiegert's going to be there. Eric Crouch is going to be there. Amon Green, I'll be there as well. And I'm excited to announce our final official former Husker coach that will be there as well, Kenny Wilhite. A standout defensive back for Coach Osborne. First team all-conference. Not only led Nebraska, but led the conference in interceptions his senior year. Also was on Nebraska's staff for 9 years. During that time, he was the former director of high school relations, associate director of player personnel, and a 25-year head football coach. This camp's about the kids. I want to give them a unique experience, a special experience, ladies and gentlemen. K through 8th graders, autographs, t-shirts included, July 9th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. here in Lincoln, Nebraska. If you want to register and or learn more or tell a friend, go to carrikerchronicles.com. All right, Matt Rhule is now building Nebraska football his way. I originally just had Nebraska. I'm like, somebody's going to think I mean he's building the state, which if you're the head football coach in Nebraska, let's be real, you kind of are. And what I mean by that, Matt Rhule's always been building it his way. But I'm going to get to what I mean. He is now absolutely doing what he believes is best versus what may be popular or easy. All right? He's not afraid to make the tough decision and do what he believes is best for the program, even if it might be unpopular. And here's some examples. Canceling the Tennessee series. Now, they had to know this was going to be unpopular, okay, with some folks. But just keep in mind, and this is something I tweeted out at the time, I said Troy Dannon actually did ask Tennessee if they'd move the series back, and Tennessee said no. Just remember, a few years ago, Tennessee asked Nebraska to move the series back, and Nebraska said yes. Now, I kind of, poked at Tennessee's AD because he was taking shots at us at the time. By the way, UCF's former AD. I wonder if he's mad we took Scott Frost. Anyways, I guess Tennessee's AD forgot to mention all that when he ran on his social media rant. Now, it's been explained. Having a tough non-conference schedule with the way the college football playoff is now does not benefit you. It's just an extra loss, which might be the extra thing that bumps you out of the playoff. Okay? Look at Michigan. Played nobody 2 years ago. Ohio State played nobody 2 years ago. Nobody cared. Won 2 national titles 2 years in a row. That's what Troy Dannon, and Coach Rhule saw. And that's why they made the decision they made. All right? They knew it was going to be unpopular. That's a big-time brand versus a big-time brand and a big-time series, etc., etc. He did what he believed was best. No spring game. Boy, was this interesting when this first came out. And if he wasn't the first coach to do this, he was one of the first, that's for sure. He knew this was going to be an unpopular decision, probably a big deal. Poaching is a real problem. We've already discussed in the past. Hey, you put your players on display, everyone's going to try to poach them because those rules and regulations that I mentioned earlier are not here yet. So I get that. I understand that. I never bought into the whole injury thing, and I've explained why in the past, because you can set up your spring game to protect your players to a certain degree, and if you can't protect them enough that you feel comfortable to play a spring game, why are you playing tackle football? So I never bought into that. All right, I will say this, okay, because other schools have now canceled more of their spring games as well, and now it's a fairly common thing. It's not even newsworthy anymore after the initial reactions went by the wayside. Spring game attendances have been way down this past weekend. I saw some screenshots of some of the spring game attendances. They are way down this year, so keep that in mind. All right. Now, I will throw this out there. There is a strong potential for spring games to return because there are some rules and regulations that may be coming down sooner rather than later, hopefully, and one of those may be that the post-spring portal may go away. Now, I don't know if it's going to be by next year or a couple years from now, but most people expect it to go away. Well, if that portal goes away, the poaching problem goes away, now you can have a spring game. Then, and I've talked about this before in shorts on YouTube and my Adam Carriker show on 93.7 The Ticket, playing a spring game versus another team is a phenomenal idea. I've thought that ever since I was a kid. Joint practices with another team are a phenomenal idea. And when Dion first said it, some people were like, whoa. I was like, that's great. And now all of a sudden you hear other coaches saying, hey, that'd be a pretty good idea if everyone would stop poaching our players. So the reality of the spring game returning is very, very realistic in the next couple of years. I hope it's next year, but we'll see what happens. Did you know that Matt Rhule almost didn't hire Mike Ekeler? How crazy does that sound? All right, here's another tweet that I put out. Am I the only one who found it interesting that Matt Rhule was hesitant to hire Mike Ekeler? Because the media and former players told him to do so. He literally was going to go against, potentially, what was popular, which was hiring Mike Ekeler. I understand not wanting to deal with a potential celebrity coach, and obviously Mike Ekeler's hired, but that's interesting. I just thought it was interesting. Once they interviewed Mike Ekeler, it was obvious that they needed to hire him. But the fact that he was such a popular candidate he was like, whoa, I don't know. I don't want to deal with someone, maybe a potential celebrity type coach. Obviously, Mike Ekeler's very qualified. Glad he's here. They made the hire. But he almost didn't hire him because of the popularity surrounding him. All right. If you think back to Rhule's first offseason, he got hired in December. He's just trying to put a recruiting class together, a transfer portal class together, a coaching staff together. He's basically just trying to put everything together that first offseason. I want to say it's chaos, but that's part of the job. That's kind of what it was, and he handled it very well. I will say this, when it comes to transfer portal players, we've got to hit on more of our transfer portal players. We've got to have a much higher batting average, a much higher success rate. Okay, when you think back to last year, Micah Mazuka was the most NFL-ready offensive lineman we had. That's what I was told. It didn't work out so great. And if you think back to last spring, he missed a lot of last spring for various reasons as well. Isaiah Nayor, one of only 5 guys in the NFL Combine's history to be 6'5", 220 and run a 4 flat 40. Only 5 guys in history. We didn't get out of him what we needed last year. Jamal Banks, okay? Dante Dowdell. Now, he started a bunch of games. I don't think he should have, with all due respect. I wish him the best of luck in Kentucky. All right. You look at Stephon Thompson, a guy who started for Tony White as a true freshman in Syracuse, struggled last year, mightily. You think back to the year before, Jeff Sims. I'm not going to go through everybody. My point is, because the first portal class may have even been less successful than last year's portal class, we got to have a much higher batting average or success rate when it comes to portal players, especially for this year. So then you go into Rhule's second offseason. He was kind of going around, getting to know everybody, doing all these different things for different people around the state, whether it be shows, whether it be whatever the case may be. Okay? Kind of a get-to-know-you, make-everybody happy type tour, which, by the way, I think was a good idea. The previous staff, there wasn't warm and fuzzies about him, not the head coach especially. So he was trying to change that. I get it, and I understand it. This third offseason, it's like he's saying, I'm purely going to do things my way. Winning football games is what's going to make people happy. All right? And he already knew that. But it's just like, with all due respect, I'm going to do it my way now. You got to keep in mind, his coaching career, he was let go of Carolina. Not saying he's going to get fired here. I hope he's here the next 25 years. But if something goes awry and he gets let go here, his coaching career, I don't want to say it's on the line too, but it's connected to this very strongly. So that's got to be in there as well. Like, hey, this is our program. This is my coaching career. But we need to build this the way that I see fit because I'm the head football coach. And he's a guy getting paid $8-9 million a year too. It's almost like he said, I've tried a few things your way. Now we're just going to do what I believe is best, purely my way. Which, I'm just going to let you know right now, I love it. I love it. It's not easy to do. It's hard to do. And I'm going to explain why right after this. But first, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Okay, this show does not happen without you, first and foremost, the fine people at home. Second of all, our sponsors. All right, DPS Concrete Construction. Jason Armstrong, he owns multiple businesses. All right, and we are throughout the offseason, especially come the season, going to promote more of them. But DPS Concrete Construction is the best at what they do. There's nobody better, I'll put it that way. You can check them out at dpsconstruction.net if you need concrete work done, retaining wall work done, especially if you're in the Omaha metro area. Go to dpsconstruction.net. If this is your line of work and you want a great boss, dpsconstruction.net. Also, Husker Auto Group. Check them out at huskerautomotive.com. All right, the Husker Auto Group Blitz package is on, ladies and gentlemen. Come visit Husker GMC Business Elite for your small business, commercial fleet vehicle needs. Husker Auto Group has the vehicle you need: half tons, 3/4 tons, quarter tons, 1 tons, medium duty trucks to choose from today. As always, Husker GMC offers the complete Blitz package, located conveniently off I-80 and North 27th Street. Again, check them out at huskerautomotive.com. You can check them out also at huskerchevrolet.com, huskercadillac.com, huskergmc.com, huskermercedes-benz.com, and bmwoflincoln.com. Ask for Steve and Brian. Tell them Adam sent you. It's really hard sometimes when there's a whole lot of opinions out there to just do what you believe is best. It sounds easy. As you're sitting there maybe right now, you're like, oh, what's so hard about it? I don't know. Maybe you're not thinking that. I've thought that at times, and then I, realized, wow, it's not easy. I had a conversation with Matt Rhule the day before the spring game a year ago, and he said, you got to do what you believe is best. He's talking to me about his coaching philosophy, his decision-making philosophy, and he's like, that's one of the hardest things a coach has to do, okay? And I will never forget that because I already knew that. I had a conversation with Tom Osborne that I'll get to here in a second, years ago, okay? But that's his philosophy, and that's a little bit easier said than done. Now, we have the best fans in the world. I want to be very, very clear, but not many things go unnoticed here. There's other places where things might go unnoticed. It ain't going to go unnoticed here. It's going to be discussed. It's going to be talked about. I had a previous coach tell me that at his previous job before he came to Nebraska, he said, and I quote, I just did whatever the hell I wanted, Adam, end quote. Because he was frustrated. He couldn't just do whatever the hell he wanted here. All right. When you think about something like letting go of Hardly Gilmore, he didn't say, Matt Rhule said it wasn't criminal or anything like that. It's just not going to be with us anymore. Didn't go into a bunch of details. And I saw some folks who were like, should he give us more information? No, not if he doesn't want to. Some things deserve to be kept in-house. Okay. So that's the coach's decision. Dane Key, Isaiah Hunter, Ja'Cory Barney, a lot of the Janarian Bonner, a lot of the guys in that room, Cortez Mills, there's other guys as well, are very talented. There are some coaches in that football building who are as excited or more excited about Hardly Gilmore than any of them over the long term. He chose to let him go, okay, for whatever reason, because he believed that was best. Sometimes that's not as easy as it might sound. They are clearly trusting their own evaluations of certain position groups on this team. The defensive line, all right, and I put this out on X. What are your thoughts on Matt Rhule saying he believes, and I quote, we're going to have one of the best D lines around, end quote, yesterday? Question mark. That was my tweet anyways, because that's what he said. We're going to have one of the best defensive lines around. And just a reminder, I've talked about this before, 7 Division I total starts combined in that entire defensive line room, 6 by one player, which is Cam Lenhart, and 4 of those were 2 years ago. So not a whole lot of experience, plenty of talent, plenty of ability. I'm not questioning that, but they're trusting, and he said that before they ever had a padded practice in the spring, I might add. He's trusting their own evaluation of that defensive line. All right. Only one truly experienced running back on this roster, and that's obviously Emmett Johnson. Rhule said, and I quote, we don't need to do anything there, end quote, as far as like the transfer portal doing more things in the running back room in one of his previous press conferences. He mentioned, They've loved Quentin Ives for years. I've heard him talk about Quentin Ives at press conferences for a long time. Clearly, this is his year to be in the mix with Emma Johnson as the 1-2 punch. He also mentioned Mekhi Nelson having dynamic speed. Obviously, like Connor Booth, all right, a freshman who had video game numbers in high school. It was crazy. There's other guys that can be mentioned as well, okay? There was some early hype around Jamarian Parker. He's out, right now in the spring, at least for this week with injury. All right, but they are focused on in-house development of their guys at that position specifically, and they're excited about it, versus big-name outside guys. Again, that's trusting your own process, what you're doing in-house in a day and age when that's really hard to do with the transfer portal, NIL, guys coming and going, etc. Matt Rhule's all in on the Rhule family. Okay, Dylan starting at quarterback. Donovan is at year 4 in the offensive line coach. And Dayton Riola is an incoming quarterback as well. All right. Oh, and I want to be clear. I'm not saying all of these were unpopular decisions. I don't know if I ever clarified that. Basically, I was talking about, I knew Tennessee canceling that series and the spring game were going to be big time talked about unpopular decisions. Everything after that is just like, he's trusting himself and what he believes. And I love it. What more can you ask of your coach? All right, hiring John Butler. Rhule knew in-house they absolutely wanted to hire him. Now, he mentioned they interviewed several Power 4 defensive coordinators, but he knew he wanted to hire John Butler unless a better candidate came along. Obviously, nobody did. Some fans, quite a few fans to be fair, and I'm kind of in this boat too. Like Butler's resume is there. I don't question the resume, but it's just kind of wait and see. How's this going to play out? How's this going to work out? All right, just a reminder, there's 4 defensive coordinators on this team, 4 former defensive coordinators on this team, from Butler to Addison, the defensive backs coach, Phil Snow, and Matt Rhule himself, who, by the way, I know he personally prioritizes defense more for himself, even than he does offense. It's easier when you've got Dana Holgorsen as your offensive coordinator to do as well, but I know he's just more of a defensive guy. I know that from speaking with him. All right. He's done some unprecedented, never-before things, but before we dive into that, I want to shout out one more of our sponsors, and that's Allen Capital Group. That's ALLEN Group.com. They have offices in Omaha, Grand Island, Ogallala, and Scotts Bluff. They have next-level solutions for next-level needs. Ladies and gentlemen, they do a phenomenal job. Okay, I just had another meeting with my financial advisor. They've been my family's financial advisor for over 10 years. If you want your family's finances in the hands of people who are knowledgeable, people who have great character, and people who are going to prioritize what's best for you and your family's goals, it's Allen Capital Group. Again, check them out at allencapgroup.com. Next-level solutions for next-level needs. All right. Again, unprecedented, never-before-seen move is what he did last fall. You take your offensive coordinator. He was the tight ends coach as well, but you make him just the tight ends coach. And then you make a guy who wasn't even on your staff with a month left to go in the season the offensive coordinator. Again, it's a little easier when that guy's Dana Holgorsen. I've never seen that before. He's willing to do whatever it takes. He's willing to think outside the box. He's willing to look in the mirror. He's willing to honestly self-evaluate and say, got to do this different, got to do that better. I like this, I like that. Don't care if it's never been done. With all due respect, don't care if it's popular. I believe it's best. What more can you possibly ask out of your football coach? I love it. Now, whether it's going to work or not, I can't sit here and say. Think about some of the changes Osborne made over the years, going from the 5-2 to the 4-3, moving safeties down to linebacker down to defensive end. You got to remember, he wasn't running an all-option offense when he first took over. He liked to pass the ball in the beginning. I'm not saying like, fun and gun Steve Spurrier, Florida, Danny Werfel stuff, but that evolved over time into a very unique offense that nobody else was running in the country. Not the Naval Academies. There's a different type of option offense, different type of run game. Nobody ran an offense like Nebraska did, and the changes he made on defense. There was a time when they didn't offer a lot of scholarships to DBs. They had to change that, especially after they played those Florida schools. Okay, evolving over time, honest self-evaluation and doing what you believe is best is not easy. In fact, I'll share a story with you. I've interviewed Osborne, probably Coach Osborne, more than any other person on this show. The first time I ever interviewed him is like 10 years ago. It was my very first year doing this show. We're going on year 11, okay? And unlike Will Compton, it's not debatable. We are going on year 11. It's debatable whether he's going on year 10. I asked him at the end of that interview, I said, if you could give Nebraska's football coach one piece of advice, what would it be? Here's what he didn't say. He didn't say recruiting or talent acquisition. He didn't say X's and O's. He obviously has phenomenal relationships with his players, but he didn't say relationships with players. He said, thick skin. And I sat there like, what? Thick skin? Think about Osborne's career. It took him 6 years to beat Oklahoma. In 78, he about took the Colorado job because there was a lot going on in Lincoln. He finally beats Oklahoma, and he had the offer for the Colorado job. He said, I'm not going because I've been telling all these recruits Nebraska is the best place to be, and if I leave, what does that say? Man of integrity. After the 1990 college football season, the Citrus Bowl didn't go great versus eventual co-national champ Georgia Tech. Didn't go great at all. He pulled his coaching staff together, and he said, had a meeting. He told me this, and he said, you might as well just start looking for new jobs. We're going to get fired. So you got to keep in mind, it was 22 years with a lot of things in the middle before he finally won his first national title. Then he closed out with 3 national titles in the last 4 years. That's what everyone remembers. But there was 22 years in there where there was a lot of learning, growing, developing, and a lot of scrutiny. Thick skin to specifically be a successful football coach here at Nebraska. That was his advice. All right, and obviously everything else that I aforementioned matters as well. X's and O's, relationships, talent acquisition. Again, this is all you can ask of your coach. Whether it's going to work or not, I don't know. But I love the process that we're in right now. As a football coach in college, you got to be able to do what you believe is best, even if it ain't easy. All right, final thoughts here. His first couple years, his recruiting classes, talking about Rhule. Okay, he took 8 players from the state of Nebraska in those 2 recruiting classes. That's the most players from the state of Nebraska signed to the Huskers since 1998. And he did it 2 years in a row with that huge gap in between from 98 to his first year as a head coach. Then he did it 2 years in a row. This year so far, Husk Guys on Twitter said, maybe the first time I've seen this. Of the top 10 2026 recruits from the state of Nebraska, 5 are currently committed to Iowa State, with the 6th, the number 1 recruit, the number 1 quarterback in the state, and the number 1 recruit, Jet Tamala, currently projected to commit to the Cyclones as well. By the way, Tamala tweeted out on Friday, he had a great conversation with the Iowa coaches, Kirk Ferentz, the OC, and got an offer from Iowa. So we'll see how that plays out, okay? If you want a guy who's going to wait till things are past to go back and do the hindsight 2020 should have done this different, that's not me. I will keep an eye on things while they're unfolding. Okay, I trust Rhule, but I'm also going to keep an eye on things while they're unfolding, not just wait till things happen, then go back and try to look at them like, oh, we should have done that different. Well, I'll keep an eye on it while it's unfolding. You never know what's going to happen. So far this year, they are recruiting a lot more national guys, 4- and 5-star guys from around the country, and most of that's because 1890 has allowed them to do so and be in recruiting wars and be in recruiting conversations and be at the table with the types of guys that haven't been able to be at the table and in those conversations with for a long time. Should note, Iowa State, with almost 50% of their current class being from Nebraska, has the number 19 recruiting class in the country. The Huskers are 53rd. They've only got 3 commits, and obviously we're very early on in this recruiting process, so keep that in mind. Now, here are my questions for you fine folks at home. And these fan questions today are brought to you by Husker Auto Group. All right, check them out at huskerautogroup.com. Also, CarrikerChronicles.com as well. We have year-round all Husker sports coverage. First question. Let me know your answer in the comments below. There's not been a ton of controversy, but there's been some debate, maybe some controversy throughout the offseason over some of the offseason's decisions this year. College football is vastly different than it's ever been. I think we all know that. As a whole, do you like Rhule's approach to building our football program now? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments below. Just simply say yes or no if you'd like. 2, are you good with how Rhule is choosing to recruit in-state players from Nebraska now? Yes or no? Or you can elaborate. Number 3, do you believe that high school recruiting is still the best way to build a football program, which is the way it was for decades, well over a century? With the Nico Iamaleava thing, you might recruit a 5-star. He might be there for a year or 2, demand a bunch of money, hold you up, and then leave. Do you still believe high school recruiting is the best way to build a college football program? Or has the transfer portal become more important to you? All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a glorious week. And I'm recording this on Monday. It'll go out on Tuesday. But have a glorious week. And until next time, go Big Red, and always remember to throw the ball.